everybody. Welcome to Walt's Apartments, a Star Wars focused podcast, which we kind of rebrand all the time. Mando Mondays, Force Fridays, whatever we're feeling. We're going to call this one Mando Monday on Sunday, featuring the Book of Boba Fett. Considering some stuff that happens in this series, that'll make sense as you start watching the Book of Boba Fett and why it fits in really nicely to Mando Monday. So I am Amber, and I'm here with
Jade
and some of our special friends from Walt's Apartment. You guys want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll go. This is Joe, one of the hosts from Disney Universe podcast, a couple other podcasts, including the Mando Show, and frequent guest and friend of Walt's Apartment. And happy to be here, talk about Star Wars. So thanks for the invite.
My name is Danny. I have an Instagram called Danny Fandoms, if y'all want to check that out. I've been a longtime watcher of Walt's Apartment and a longtime fan. I'm always watching Marvel Tribe, the Extra Magic Hour, all the shows you guys on, and I'm just really happy to talk Book of Boba Fett with y'all today.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys being here, adding your input to our discussion. Jade and I have been a little slackers this last year on our Star Wars podcast, so it's about time to get back in it and talk about what's going on. We can even maybe talk about some of the cool news and things that we're hearing rumors wise in the Star Wars realm when we're done talking Boba Fett. So
sounds good.
Book of Boba Fett. What were you guys expecting to see from this? Like, do you remember back and thinking, oh, this is what I want to see out of this series? And did it fulfill that?
Well, for me, I mean, when they that end credits trailer at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I really didn't know what to expect other than Boba Fett just becoming this crime lord that we kind of already knew that he was. I mean, the legendary bounty hunter from the original trilogy, but now we actually get to see him kind of as the leader. He's not taking any orders from anybody, and I want to see how that went, and I think the series did fulfill, at least in that aspect, for sure.
Yeah, I know when that, like you said, that credit was a big surprise because it was just a few days after they had the big reveal of all the shows that are coming out, and that wasn't mentioned. So when that pops up at the end, it was like, whoa, crazy. But I had a big expectations, but I also felt that we're spoiled for the Mandalorian, and it'd be hard to get to that level. So I felt the show was a little bit choppy at times, but overall it was really enjoyable. And I know a lot of people didn't know that it was labeled as Mando 2.5. So, and it showed obviously towards the end, but I enjoyed it. I like more where the future where he's going, and whether we get another season or just shows up in future shows, it was really entertaining.
Yeah. Jade, did you have any expectations?
I was kind of really looking forward to see how he escaped the Sarlacc pit. I was like, it has to be something with his armor. And then it just kind of brought me back to, like, there's this Parks and Recs episode where he's like, and his gauntlet grasped the sand outside the Sarlacc pit. And then was like, oh, it actually happened.
Yeah. That is the really awesome thing about Favreau and Filoni. Like, they have their hands in so much stuff, and they're such fans of so many things that this series, like The Mandalorian, I think gives nods to all kinds of cultural things, movies, TV shows, that kind of add those cool little, like, oh, I see what you did there.
And deep cuts from old Star Wars stuff too.
Yeah. So we can dive right in, talk about season 1. That's the Sarlacc pit escape, right? So if anybody hasn't watched it, I don't think we need to say it, but spoilers ahead, just so you know. But this was the one, right? They had to start right out the gate. Like, how did he survive? We all thought he was dead, and then he's not dead. How are they going to solve that mystery? So this first episode, they had some questions to answer, and how he escaped the Sarlacc pit was one of them. And it makes some sense, right? He's got the Beskar armor. It adds him a little layer of protection. When we saw him in The Mandalorian, he's obviously scarred up. We assume it's from the Sarlacc pit. But yeah, what'd you guys think?
I really
I thought
liked
it was
the
really
episode.
cool.
Yeah, I didn't know how they were going to start it out, and when they started it out with him escaping the Sarlacc pit, Jawa stealing his armor, it was like, okay, those were the two bigger questions. And then when he got kidnapped, basically, it was like, okay, where is this series going?
Yeah,
And
and
then
I
for
mean,
me,
oh, go ahead.
no, I mean, if you ask me, like, I just got so stoked when he pulled out his flamethrower just to burn his way through. Like, that just shows how resourceful he is. Like, he knows he's quite literally in the belly of the beast, and he's gonna claw his way out by whatever means necessary. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I did like how his
Yeah.
first instinct was, let's go over to this stormtrooper, steal his oxygen, and then burn his way out.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I was going to say that, like Danny mentioned, just his resourcefulness, and kind of coming to, then going straight to the stormtrooper and doing that. But it's like, between, if you read the comics or read the EU and just hearing how he got out, but actually seeing it was like, oh my god, that's so cool. I mean, obviously the great way to open the season.
Yeah, and these first 4 episodes have a lot of that flashing back and forth. So they flash back to show us some answers to his backstory, and then it flashes to present time and what's happening, where where he is now, and how all that's developing. So that was kind of a neat way, I think, to do it, and it kept you a little bit more engaged in the story than I think we would have been otherwise.
Yeah, I liked how they used the Bacta tank to do the transition to the flashbacks. Because if you think of it, he's being super medicated, so of course all these little, not hallucinations, but like dreams are coming back while you're under medication. And I mean, just that whole little back thing of that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought so.
And I think more just for storytelling purposes, it was really needed, because even if you're only somewhat familiar with the timeline, it's about 4 or 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and you're thinking he's just going to pop right back in. I think you need those flashbacks just to catch the audience up, show where he is, and then culminate to the president.
Yeah, exactly. So in the present time of the storyline, he's trying to get the lay of the land, checking out Mos Espa, meeting with some of the people. Jennifer Beals' character showed up, which we had gotten a glimpse of in some promo materials like a month before. So that was pretty cool. We love seeing Twi'leks pop up.
Oh yeah.
And I half expected her to start dancing. I don't know. Did anybody else have those expectations? It's Jennifer Beal after all.
Yeah, especially with the band playing and finding out Max Rebo still alive, playing in the sanctuary. I mean, that's
and figuring Dan.
Yeah, exactly. At least one of them,
There's
the band
a mystery.
broke
How
up.
did Max Rebo survive that explosion on the barge?
Yeah.
Was he even there? Like, I think some people say, was he even there? But even if he was, yeah, he's Max Rebo. Let's see what happens.
Now, I thought the same thing at the Easter egg scene on Mando. I'm like, wait, Bib Fortuna was on the barge. So, but he's probably one of the first ones that would jump off, because he's, kind of a coward.
Out for themselves.
Yeah.
So there's hope for Salacious Crumb, right?
It's got to be.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was one of those roasted on a spigot that we saw in the background of, of the other series. Anything else stood out for you guys in this first episode?
Actually seeing, the true difference between Mos Eisley and Mos Espa, between the seasons. Like we saw Mos Espa in, Attack of the Clones and stuff, and we saw that it was a lot more busy, or Phantom Menace, sorry. Well, both actually. And but you actually see that this is kind of like the more busier town, a little bit more upscale than Mos Eisley. So it was really cool that they dug deep into that, and actually how big it was too. We saw it in the trailer, but just the scale of the city was really cool.
And for me, it's just anytime he spends with the Tuskens throughout the series is really humanizing them more than just some savages that we see attacking Luke in episode 4 and shooting the pod racers on in episode 1. So I really like that they give them more of a story and more depth to their tribal nature.
Yeah, and I really liked that in episode 2 or chapter 2, where it dives more deeply into their culture and as he kind of proves his mettle and seeing some of those traditions that make up their tribal life, and it definitely is making a little bit of a statement, about this is their native lands, and they're responding in some way like you would expect anybody to respond when their lands are being taken over by outsiders. They're going to be defensive, and it humanizes, like you said, that group of people that had kind of been villainized up until this point, right?
Yeah, and especially the second chapter when you actually kind of for the first time find out there are multiple tribes of Tuscans, because even they started humanizing them more during the Mando with a sign language and all that stuff, which was brilliant. Than how you kind of break apart with these ones, which were more warrior based tribe, but still had a lot of honor, and where you could instantly see where I saw kind of early where we knew Boba wanted to go from a crime lord, but it was going to lead into more of a turn into a protector, of not just the city but the planet, and that's kind of where it was kind of leaning towards too. So, but yeah, I agree. Just the whole backstory with Tuscans was really awesome. It was one of the highlights of the season, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the badass that trains him, that's played by the female stunt person. I looked her up and follow her on social media now, because I was like, I am really digging this character. I mean, they never, speak really, right? There's never a whole lot of dialogue there, but you do get a feel for her character and her place in the tribe and how she helps him to develop as a person. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how far we're jumping ahead, but when we go to the train scene, just as cool as that was, then when she pops up and does her little going through the train, just cleaning house was, when we were talking about it on our podcast, I was like, one of my main highlights of the season, she jumps in, then you see the pikes pop right out or get thrown out. And yeah, that whole scene, the character was great. So it was sad to see that it was short-lived.
Yeah.
And I've seen some hope that she actually may still be alive, because you don't really see her body specifically when Boba Fett returns to the ruins of the attack of the Tusken Raiders.
True.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too. Yeah, because there's some speeder bikes there, so a few of them might have hopefully got away.
Yeah. So speaking of the pikes, they're talked about in a lot of different Star Wars mediums. But this is kind of the first time in, other than Solo, that we get to see them and in live action, I should say, right? We get to see them a lot more in the Clone Wars, of course. But for those live action followers only, they're still somewhat mysterious. And this kind of shines light on, now that the Empire has fallen and we see that vacuum of power happening and those crime syndicates starting to take over with the spice trade stuff. So that kind of crime underbelly starting to tie in.
Well, I think they were always trading spice, but once the Empire took over, they kind of went underground more. And now that there's kind of transition of power, things are really hectic. They're like, okay, well, we can take over this whole planet, make it a big trading post, and do our business.
Yeah, I thought when they popped up, I'm like, all right, cool. It's cool seeing them in person, especially unmasked was, just more fish people. And, no pun intended, but I thought they were kind of like a red herring for the season, thinking a bigger syndicate was going to show up. If people haven't been paying attention, there's the whole bounty of the war, or was it the War of the Bounty Hunters comic series, and how Crimson Dawn's a lot bigger, and with Kira ahead. So I was kind of in that group thinking, oh, that's the secret syndicate that's going to pop up. And
we did too. And halfway through the series, I was like, come on, she has to pop up. She has to pop up. And then the other person popped up. So I was like, yeah, they're probably not doing it, are they?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, hopefully.
They definitely could in the next season.
I mean, they
though.
could. It's true. Yeah.
I mean, there's Luke, there's Maul. Come on. Or maybe Kenobi takes him out. I don't know. Well, actually, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting because that must have been. Okay, yeah. I just had to track that in my timeline there of Maul.
Yeah, the Maul's dead.
Yeah,
At
he's
this point.
dead. Maybe for real this time.
Like dead. Like,
Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
not coming back.
Yeah. Not one of those mysterious tests where like, oh, is he really dead? Are you sure?
We
There's
saw it
a
on
few of
screen.
those. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in this episode in particular that stood out for you guys?
This was the episode that I actually really enjoyed. Like, what was it? I know they did the present time. They started with that part on this season or this episode, but the whole flashback with the Tuscans was definitely like the highlight of the episode. And not too familiar with the director. I know she's a newer director and has done a lot of TV, but I was like, wow, she, you know, her episode was a lot director-wise was, really grabbing more than the first one that was Robert Rodriguez, which I'm a big fan of his. And I'm like, wow, she did really good, and hope we see her in more seasons. But yeah, this was a great episode.
Agreed. All right, so episode 3 opens with the nod to Return of the Jedi with the spider monk crawling across the screen with his creepy little red brain casing. I was like, yes, I love that. So that was really cool. There's any other nods? Like, I'm trying to remember. I didn't take super great notes on my rewatch of the nods that happened in the first couple of episodes.
Going back real quick to the chapter 2, when Boba goes to the which we find out Tashi Station bar to deal with the gang.
Oh, that was that one. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so I saw the girl that was in the bar, and I'm like, oh, she looks like the girl that was in the deleted scene for the Blu-ray of A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cammy.
I figured that the hair, Cammy, and I'm like, oh, it's cool seeing the maybe that hairstyle's Tatooine style. But then, like, kind of going around after I mentioned that on our show, then when I was watching YouTube videos, and it was like, was it Flickster and Cammy? I'm like, wow, that is like as deep cut as when Mithril mentioned like Life Day. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
When you're referencing a deleted scene, I thought that was really good. So that was one of my big highlights. But
there's another reference to unreleased material at the end too, which is kind of cool at the final chapter. But yeah, that's the like they do some deep cuts, man. It's pretty cool. But they do it in a way where it's not like super fan servicey, and I don't know. I just like the style that these two, when they're writing and producing together, bring to shows. It's pretty awesome.
It's like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, no big deal. It's just part of the show.
It doesn't affect the story. Yeah, exactly.
And especially like if we're talking about episode 2, I just had to remember if that was the right one. But the Hutt twins that we got coming in on their litter, I thought that was a really, really cool to see. First of all, just more Hutts in like, even though they're CGI, they're still in a live action show. Haven't gotten that since, really just Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the things was, I know they keep telling Boba Fett how come he's not on a litter, and that that he just boots on the ground, walking amongst the people. And then when you see this kind of parade that the Hutts have, you're like, oh, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about this big fanfare that they think a daimyo is going to have.
Yeah,
which is good to see that Boba Fett is kind of a changed man after all, and he's not looking for all this attention.
And seeing the Hutts on it just bowed and everybody's just like struggling was pretty hilarious. And yeah. Oh, and of course the introduction live action of Black Chrysanthemum was
heck yeah.
Pretty epic.
Yeah, that's so he shows up in this episode 3. And yeah, they fake him out with the Rancor. cavern that's empty,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, and you know, that's kind of disappointing too, because you don't realize, oh, they didn't replace the Rancor, and then it's brought as tribute. That was pretty cool as a calf, so it's not a completely full grown Rancor
Speaking of
yet.
tributes, I was gonna go back. There was a Trandoshan who brought the tribute of the pelt of a Wookiee pelt. Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that initially watching the episode until later going back and listening and reading to other people talk about like, oh, that's right. The Trandoshans and Wookiees have this history, and like that's pretty deep cut and pretty dark at the same time that they would bring a Wookiee pelt as tribute.
Yeah. Which you know, makes sense later when he loses his shit in the bar. It's like, that's what happens.
We've all been there. not that bad, but you know.
Ripping arms off.
I am glad we got to see him rip somebody's arms off.
Yeah.
And it's okay. He's a Trandoshan. He's a lizard. It'll grow back.
It'll grow back.
So they bring the Rancor calf, and you get Danny. What's his last name?
Danny Trejo.
Trejo, yeah, who's always a badass as the handler there, and
it only made sense. I mean, you got, like you said, this guy's been a film badass for years, and obviously a lot of Rodriguez movies, and just we're going to see more of him with the Rancor, and no. But that whole scene was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Let's see.
But he never named the Rancor. That's what I really wanted, was because he said, let's give him a name, and then they never did. I'm like, oh, come on. I want to call it something.
Yeah. I know. And was this episode too, when he got his ship back, right? But he had the bantha, and he's like, oh, go make bantha babies or something.
Yeah.
I mean, just the dialogue in this show is pretty funny. Especially the way Tim Miller pulls it off.
Yeah. And this is the one with the 80s style moped gang.
Yes.
Right, with all the mods. And I think it's the next episode, though, that shows the Fennec's survival story, right? That's not episode 3. That's episode 4. Yeah. We get to introduce to the gang first. Yeah, because that's when that dude from Office Space was like, nobody likes you or nobody respects you, you know. And which I mean, don't piss off. Don't give them a reason to come after you, you know. And don't overcharge for water. Right? Like, it was hilarious to see him. Just like, what? I'm just this innocent townsperson playing stupid.
So that's
overcharging for my moisture.
Because they mentioned the TPS reports in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's right.
And I heard someone say that this was called, I forgot the exact name of the episode. It's like something of Mos Espa, but with the biker gang, it's more like Mos Vespa.
Yeah.
Oh, the streets of Mos Espa. Yeah.
That's the one.
And I thought they were cool at first, but I'm like, they look like something from a different planet, though, not Tatooine. They're I don't know, they're too bright colored for me on Tatooine, but you know, they serve their purpose.
Yeah, one windstorm, that paint job would be gone.
That's why they got to be taking the water from the guy to wash their bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem kind of out of place, particularly in this series when you see the bright and shiny things. You know, Canto Bite is one thing, right? Where it's glitter and the glam of the universe. But then here you're like, it doesn't fit so much. But, you know, I like the 80s vibe that it kind of brought, and the kind of
with a slow bike chase.
Yeah.
The chase at caution. Which
I love this
yeah. But this character of the mayor's major domo turned out to be one of my favorite characters of the season. I mean, he shows up, he's Weasley, and like, I don't like this guy. Then you're like, okay, he's purposely a weasel. And he gets great, and every time they show him, he gets better and better, and especially in the finale. But no, he was great. I forget, Dan Pascali, I think's his name. He's been in a lot of stuff. I can't picture him, but he's one of the fun new characters.
And I like that he crashes into a to a vendor selling melon run fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live action Rebels reference. Yes.
Uh-huh. Another nod. Another nod. All right. Anything else from episode 3
No.
or book chapter 3? I always say episode. It's chapter.
Yeah, I usually do my full season rewatch after they're all out. I haven't done that yet because I've been busy with work. But
Yeah. Okay. So episode 4 is the one where we see how he finds Fennec and how she survives, right? Because again, unless you really know somebody's dead, they're not really dead in Star Wars.
yeah,
And they did kind of tease that in season 1 of The Mandalorian, because they had you heard the boots walking by her body, so you knew something was up. And then, of course, we see that she's alive in season 2.
Yeah. And that's how all the rumors started about us seeing Boba again. Was that?
yeah, the Spurs.
Spurs rattling. So that was cool. So yeah, so we got to see what happened next, and getting her mods. And I think it's
Which
kinda
made
cool
sense to see the mods on the planet, because that's where they were.
Yeah. And we haven't really, other than Luke's hand, there's not a whole lot of that explored in live action, and like what that really looks like, what that means, and how extensive they can do mods. So that's kind of cool to start seeing in live action. I mean, we know about it from other things like the animated series and comics and things, but hasn't actually been dived into too much in live action. So
And it's weird seeing how they use, we know them as replacements or medical, to keep you alive. But, finding out on Tatooine, that's what one of my co-hosts mentioned, like it's almost like a tattoo parlor where they're, they're going just to get, hey, this is what I want, just kind of. And when we see, I forget his name, but the guy that we find as a bassist,
Thundercat.
Thundercat, yeah. I mean, the way he's set up, he looks like he's working a tattoo shop. And so I thought that was pretty cool how that tied in. And like, okay, well, that made sense that's how she survived,
Mm-hmm.
And great, then we get the really good backstory of like where he decides, the lone man wants to be part of a tribe and everything. So
yeah,
really cool, like storytelling on this episode.
Yeah, we get to see how they bond and why they're, so tight now as a duo. And let's see. So he goes looking for his armor in this episode and reclaims his ship. Is that all this episode, if I recall correctly?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he thought he could get the ship by himself, but it was too guarded. Then after that, he wants to get his armor, but so get that cool little Slave One view, looking straight down the Sarlacc, and that all seems like this isn't going to be good. Come on, man.
Yeah.
But the way it looked was pretty cool, and anytime you see seismic charges too is just awesome.
Yeah. Well, and you saw the Jabba barge wreckage right there next to the pit. That was kind of cool.
Ran down that biker gang.
And when we get a scene in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kitchen nightmare scene. Yes.
The multi-armed droid that was out for blood.
Droid, just like
very general.
He's like, he has him up against the wall. He's like, I'm just gonna shut down. I'm just gonna turn myself off.
Yeah, that's another little animated Easter egg. That little mouse. I don't know what they're called. I mean, I know we got mouse droids, but that one actually looks like a mouse or a rabbit.
Yeah,
so
rabbit.
That was,
yeah.
Yeah. Great callbacks.
Yeah. This one also had a lot of, is this the one where he brings all the crime bosses to the table and it's got that very Godfather thing going on here?
Yeah, I think that's the end. Yeah. Where you're like, oh yeah, all these guys are gonna backstab you. But yeah, that was a real, like you said, that real Godfather-esque scene.
And I really like how Filoni and Favreau kind of pull from these other genres in the 2 seasons of Mandalorian and now Book of Boba Fett, because obviously Mandalorian season 1 is just more mainly Western vibe, that Magnificent Seven, John Wayne, and all the rest like that. And then season 2, you get more of the same, and then a little bit of Kurosawa nods that we all know that George Lucas pulls from for the main Star Wars stories, and then
Mhm.
now Book of Boba Fett, all this gangster and mob type movie, Goodfellas, Godfather,
Yeah.
and it's really cool to see that all blend and how it can make for really awesome storytelling.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I love that we didn't realize it at the time, but how the dinner table was actually on top of the Rancor cage, the trap door. And when they questioned him real bad for the first time, you just see
Yeah.
the cage bump on, like, oh yeah, there's a Rancor down there.
Uh-huh.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Just feeds them a little chicken bone or whatever they're eating.
Yeah.
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 I love the old nods, like you said, to the westerns and mafia movies in this season, this case. So
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So then we roll into episode 5, which Return of the Mandalorian, aptly titled. We just abruptly go straight into an episode of The Mandalorian here.
yeah.
Yeah, I was
It's
like,
not just the return, it's the takeover.
yeah, exactly. I kept looking and I'm like, what just happened? What am I watching? Where am I?
Well, yeah, because they did tease it at the end of the last episode where he's talking to Finnick,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Well, how much money do you guys like? Why I got unlimited credits down in the treasury?" He's like, "Well, you need muscle, or where do you find muscle?" It's like, "Well, you got to know where to look," and that's when you hear the cue of the Mando's theme kind of
Yeah.
just building up, and like, oh, okay,
Uh-huh.
I didn't think we were going to give him the next episode though, so and
Yeah.
and it was like that. I always kind of go back to the Mandalorian season, but it's like we knew we were going to get Ahsoka one of the episodes. We're like, okay, when's she going to pop up? Is it going to be in the middle or the end? Then her episode pops up, and it's right at the very beginning, and that's what this one was. When you see a silhouette, you instantly it was him between the little supermarket blind things. So
Yeah.
and the butcher, and I was
Uh-huh.
midnight. I was just like, woohoo!
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my gosh. Nobody was home, but I'm like, hey, somebody listen to me. Yeah, and again, very mob, very gangster, right? It's going into the freezer and taking, like they're counting their money, they're laundering their cash or whatever. It was so cool.
It was a butcher shop, and he certainly butchered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see him wield the dark saber, and I'm like, oh, dark
Yeah.
saber.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I like that he couldn't wield. I mean, when you go back to like Rebels and stuff, you see that unless you're properly trained, you can't wield it properly. So I liked how they really got into that quick. But one thing that's great about these shows, how they've referenced a lot of stuff in the past. So they even referenced chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. It was a little kind of like shadow to his first introduction, with the whole bring you in cold, bring you in warm,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
this guy got extra cold. But yeah, it was that was a great beginning. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, this
Geeking
episode
out.
was great. So we see him. He doesn't have a ship. He's obviously on a job in order to, we find out, get information more than money. And he's looking for, his clan, the remnants of his clan.
Yeah, the covert. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liked in this one that she offers up the information of that backstory part we'd been missing. So some of those lingering questions from the Mandalorian as to, okay, how did he come to be this kind of cultic version of a Mandalorian? And as we had talked about in one of our recaps of the Mandalorian, we had assumed it was because they were Concordia Dawn and that they were on the moon. And that was kind of the direction that group of Mandalorians were already going in. But this kind of confirmed that was, in fact, what had happened. And we get to see more glimpses of the Purge and the Night of 1,000 Tears. Stuff happen.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so tragic. I mean, you see why it was so tragic because, it was in a little Terminator 2 vibe of all the K2SO droids, and I forget what they're regularly called, but yeah, just walking over that, and then the probe droids, just that whole scene is like, that's why it was so known how bad it was. It wiped out entire civilization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I was gonna bring up how kind of a meta quote from when she says that the Mythosaur will return and return Mandalore to its former glory, but it exists only in legends. I'm like, Yes, it does. Only in Legends. Yep.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah.
Hopefully in canon soon, but right now only in Legends.
Yeah. I got theories on that, but that could come up later.
Yeah, so she's talking about all of that. Asked about Grogu. Vizsla kind of explains, how he's connected to the family. Mando asks her about Bo-Katan, so that's interesting. You see that rivalry very present in her explanation of how the fall of Mandalore happens, and that they clearly blame it on Bo-Katan for wielding the darksaber.
Yeah.
Without earning it. So it's kind of interesting.
And
Yeah,
even
which was always go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
Which was always like something where we're like, why in the Mandalorian was she like, I have to defeat him when she had already taken it? And now it's like, oh, okay, now that's why she feels like she has to earn it, because every Mandalorian kind of doesn't like her now.
Yeah.
And blames her.
I mean, it wasn't her fault. She didn't want it, but I mean, all the clans that were there in agreement came to that she is the Mandalore. So I mean, that's gotta. I feel that's gotta stand for something. But that's definitely see, because they were all unmasked Mandalorians. So you can see where the divide is between the two. One thing I love too is even though these characters are faceless with a mask, once Paz Vizsla sees Mando with a darksaber, he's like, all right, that's my family's. I got the claim to that. He was going to challenge him right away. So I mean, I just love the camera work. How it's like, you son of a, that's mine.
Yep.
I wonder how many family members of the Vizsla family is Jon Favreau going to play.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's going to end up being all the way back to the one that made it, Tar Vizsla, and then he's going to be like the son later, and then Paz, and then
Oh
so
my
on
gosh,
and so
that would be
forth.
so funny.
As long as one of them sounds like the narwhal from the elf,
Yes.
Bye, Mando. So
Hope you find Grogu.
yeah.
Yeah. So we see her take the spear, forge it into armor, very clearly stating that Beskar is not meant for weaponry, that it's meant for armor. That was kind of cool because it is accurate in that the only Beskar weapons that we've ever heard of in any platform have been created to kill Mandalorians. So she's like, yeah, nope, you're turning that over. And then you see the little metal beginnings of the chainmail dropping, and you're like, oh. I was like, it's chainmail. And then that, of course, made me flash back to The Hobbit. I don't know what, like deep cuts there. Probably not related, but
Space Mithril. Here you go. I was in the minority in thinking it was going to be a necklace or a chain with the Mudhorn signet, because I'm like, Disney will sell it, pretty soon. So there you go. But no, it was cool. Yeah, everybody was with the chainmail, and it was cute seeing the little chainmail, especially wrapped in the little Grogu shaped wrapping or hanky or whatever.
Like nicely done.
Let's see. Between Vizsla and Mando, like that was really cool to see, especially when Vizsla brings out the little shield he has in his gauntlet, because I don't think we'd seen that in live action before. So I just really like to see that, and then how they went back and forth, and Vizsla's pretty much got the upper hand for a good part of it. But then even he can't pick up the darksaber because, again, being properly trained. And then, again, calling back to how Sabine was saying, like, the more she used it, the lighter it got. And clearly these two have not had that experience yet. And maybe we'll see Mando go through the same thing.
Yeah, it also kind of reminds me of, like, Excalibur. And are we going to see something happen later where the right person picks it up and it all of a sudden just, the force is with the person in a way and they don't have all of these struggles with it? That's just like what my mind goes to, especially after this episode. I was like,
Well, you were
Yeah.
talking about the Hobbit. The Darksaber just in general reminds me of the Elder Wand from Harry Potter, just because it's this legendary weapon that's changed hands so many times, and you have to kind of be, in a sense, worthy to wield it. And then there's always this like you have to win in battle in order to even claim it in the first place. So I see those connections there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and even when the armor mentions like most who have wielded it have been brought a curse if they haven't properly earned it, and we don't know how Moff Gideon got it. And even the brief we saw him fighting with it, he looked like he could hold his own. But then if you think of it, everybody that's cursed, he got it when he was with the Empire, and then the Empire fell. So I'm like, oh, that's small little thing that they're just kind of throwing little bits of lore in Mando lore, but you know what I mean. But so I like how we're getting in small doses, and and if you kind of piece it together, it's like, ooh, maybe they're building towards, they're definitely building towards something. So
yeah. So they end up kind of calling a truce, and the key question gets asked, and we're all like, oh, don't say it, don't do it. Have you ever removed your helmet? Has anyone ever removed your helmet? And you're like, oh, what's he gonna do here?
Define removed.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's booted.
I kind of froze up there. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't hear what you said.
I just said he got shunned. He got the boot. He's no longer welcome.
Unless you bathe yourselves in the water of Lake.
Yeah, Minnetonka.
Minnetonka. That's under all this debris and.
Yeah.
Which I see him going there anyways, though.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, like it makes you wonder, are they going to get to the point where they return to Mandalore and what that might look like.
Yeah.
I feel that's got to happen and then that never come to fruition, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then he has to get on like a regular transport, right? Like he doesn't have his ship anymore, and they like make him turn over all of his weapons, and he's like, "What?"
Flying coach and
yeah. Kids are kicking the back of his seat.
I love I know everything that's in that container, and as a obviously a big Disney nerd too, I love seeing the use of the RX droids throughout the season between the poker, the dealer, and now the weapons check.
Yeah, because they have had multiple jobs within Disney Land and World, right? Star Tours, and now the Cantina. Yeah,
the DJ Rex, and they showed up a few times, I think, in animation, just as little transport, like bus drivers basically, but now they're weapons checks. They're moving on up.
Droid rights.
Yeah. Revolution.
All right, so then we end up on Tatooine. Peli Moto, love her. She's amazing. So we see her got the little Jedi Fallen Order droid.
Oh yeah,
the little 2-footed.
Yeah.
I forget what that was called.
Pops up, getting chased by a Womp Rat.
BD, DB.
Mm-hmm. Yes, something like that. It's hard for me to remember. I haven't played that game in forever.
Yeah. So Womp Rats are trying to wreak havoc, and the droids are fearing for their life from a Womp
But he didn't
Rat.
bullseye the Womp Rat.
Yeah.
It was cracking me up.
And I love how she's like the Captain Obvious of like this show. Like, hey, it's Mando. Yeah, we know, but
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, she is definitely like the fan in the show, and that will come up a little bit later when somebody else shows up. Where I'm like, yeah, it's like my favorite line ever now.
And just like the the Major Domo, like when she first popped up in the show, and I'm a fan of the actress Amy Sedaris, like from her sketch shows, but I'm like, oh, is she purposely annoying? But then every time she's shown up, I'm like, I'm so glad they keep bringing her in because such a great character, and especially like the two characters I don't say I disliked, but you know, are they going to hook up? But that's coming later, I guess, right?
Yeah, the innuendo is there.
I mean, he's bigger than a Jawa, so
yeah. So she has a replacement for him, and as soon as she ripped that cover off, I was like screaming. I'm like, yeah, Naboo and Starfighter. So many nods in this particular episode too, to the Phantom Menace. Like everywhere, I was seeing nods to that movie, so I thought that was kind of cool.
And we find out too that Jawas don't care who they get their parts from; they'll get it. So.
Yeah, they'll make it happen.
Yeah,
I think we already knew that though.
Well, he was almost like scavenger. Well, yeah, I guess they stripped Boba of his armor, but he was passed out.
Well, he woke up and then they bashed him in the head.
Yeah, exactly true.
Yeah. They have no scruples. We're finding out these Jawas.
But then they bring in that stick that was in the trash compactor with with Leia and Han and Luke. Yeah, that was just so random. That was like that. Why does this stick look familiar? Like, oh yeah,
yeah. This was kind of a fun one. It's like a Pimp My Ride episode or something. You know, like fixing up his hot rod,
which is really rough because I love the Razor Crest. I was that was so sad when it blew up, but. I saw him like, okay, I always like the Naboo fighter. I'm like, it's not much of a fighter, but then the way, like you said, the way they pimped it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Then when she's like, oh, I removed the droid little port, like, all right, we know what that's going to be.
We're like, I see what you're doing.
I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And I kind of like how Pelly's hangar is just like a hodgepodge for droids throughout the timeline, because you have the R5 from the original trilogy, you have the little mechanic droids from the prequels, now you have a BD unit from the video games, which is it's all really cool to see them all together in one spot.
Yeah. And then let's see
the gonks.
Yeah, he takes it out for a spin, and you get the nod to the pod racing. We see the return of the rebel kind of police force.
I love that cameo.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this till like a few days after the episode, but the younger pilot, I forget his name right now, but he was actually the stand-in for Luke at the finale. And Max Lloyd, I think I want to say his name is. I might be wrong, but yeah, so that was kind of cool. I mean, he took over for Dave Filoni. So
cool.
I love the little Nas button, the little Fast and Furious scene there. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then he gets back and he jumps out, and she says, "How'd you like it?" Or I don't remember exactly what he was asked, but he's like, "Wizard." I'm like, oh my gosh. How can you get any more Anakin in this moment?
Absolutely. And real quick, with the two X-wing pilots, one of my co-hosts is a police officer, so he's like, "Yeah, that's how it is." Like when he took off, they're like, "Should we chase him? If you want to do paperwork," and then they just go off. So he's like, "That's pretty accurate."
Yeah. Like,
when he dropped that wizard line.
Yeah, and I was like, so good.
Oh yeah, then Finnick comes back. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, at the end there, that's where we see her be like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?"
Well, I got something to do real quick.
Yeah.
You're like, like we don't know what that is.
but I'm giving Boba the homie hookup. So.
Anything else from that episode? Anybody want to add?
No, it was fun.
Super good. Just I think I was smiling that whole 40-ish minutes, whatever it was, because the nostalgia, the lines, just seeing Mando again, and that was just a really awesome episode.
Yeah, it was fun. Very fun. Not as fun as the next one, though.
Yeah. So the next one We gosh, so many good things in this one too. Gosh, I don't know where to begin on this one.
This one could be like its own show, I think.
Yeah. This one blew me away. So you see him go to find his little friend, bring him his little present. R2, of course, is there, and the little ant builder droid things. I don't know what their official name is, but they're busy working, and they build him a little bench and bring his stuff. And he's like, so you telling me I'm gonna be here for a while or what?
Yeah. Is there anybody here? Anybody alive?
Mando seems to have a lot of questions throughout. When he takes Grogu to the rock, he's like, does this look Jedi to you?
Yeah.
And he sees Luke, clearly a guy there with a lightsaber. He's like, are you a Jedi? Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw R2's little radar, that was like one of the first of many times where I just kind of cheered at 12 in the morning in my room. But yeah, and I mean, waking up to Ahsoka, I mean, I did not see her coming up at all this season, so that was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't either. I assumed we wouldn't see her again until her show. So
yeah.
So I texted her. I was like, "Are you caught up?" And she's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "Oh my god, you need to hurry the hell up already!"
Stay off the internet.
Serious.
Yeah. Go watch it right now. Go home. Whatever you were doing.
It was crazy how they updated just the detail in Luke from the last season, just with hiring the deepfake guy from YouTube.
Oh my gosh, like so incredible. Like
yeah.
The technology now is just insane.
I was there looking at it like, is that real? Is that CGI?
Yeah.
How is this possible? This looks like they got in the world between worlds and pulled Mark Hamill out of the 80s to bring him to do this.
Right?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And you still got the people like, well, the voice was off a little bit, or I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Like,
It looked amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It's literally not him.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best you could possibly get. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, as amazing as all this stuff was, I thought it was too quick for it to do the whole Grogu scene, the reuniting. I thought they would have taken a little bit longer, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of have to assume that, I was trying to figure out like how much time had gone by. Like how much time was he with Luke?
Yeah.
During that span. That was something I was trying to like figure out. Like how much time are they saying has transpired here?
Well, I mean, at the end of The Mandalorian, you see that scene with Boba taking the mantle or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously a lot happens there. And then, obviously the Mandalorian's been searching. I would assume it wasn't like immediate that he found all these connections. I'd assume it's at least been a couple months minimum.
Yeah.
Probably more. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you get to see his little flashback, which was like, oh, I'm like, don't make him remember. It's a traumatic experience. You're going to make him relive his trauma. Do it.
I thought that was pretty cool.
And even how they made it look like Anakin's dreams and nightmares, the little bubble memory style was, that was sad. You see the lightsabers in his eyes. I'm like, oh my God, poor little guy.
And I thought we were finally going to get to see who saves him, but nope. Still hanging on that thread, but
yeah.
Well, and it made me wonder, like, did somebody save him, or is that when the stormtroopers took him? And is that the beginning of, like, when he was being experimented on, or,
Well, see, I think somebody saved him just because when Order 66 happened, the stormtroopers were, like, tunnel visioned. Kill everybody that could be a Jedi, kill the younglings, kill everyone. So unless, like, Anakin had been right there to grab him because Palpatine told him to or something like that, then I feel like somebody had to have saved him.
Yeah, that's
at least for a time. Because I feel like if the whatever they were considered at that point, they probably would have just killed him, I would assume.
Yeah.
But then someone did point out that there was a little symbol on the wall of his during his vision that looked like the symbol of Barisafi. And like, I mean, this is just speculation, but when I was going down that rabbit hole, the main thing was that like maybe she kind of has a redemption arc, and that we see that in maybe a later animated series, maybe of the Bad Batch, maybe in the Ahsoka series we get some background to that. But there's clearly something on the wall, and it clearly looks like the symbol that you see in her room during that whole arc of when she framed Ahsoka.
Ooh, that could be very cool.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Especially coming in a circle as adults.
Yeah, because you don't really know what happened to her, because her master was in, I believe it was Rebels, and you see that her master died, but you don't really know what happened to her.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I loved all the going kind of back, but I loved all the Ahsoka, just the dialogue with Mando. Then even then her finally, I mean, seeing her with Luke together too. Well, first seeing her with R2, watching, but then going to her and Luke and seeing that they already met. So just a little, you so much like your father is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she is nailing the mannerisms, like the arm on the hip thing.
I saw that meme,
yeah. The like smirk, the like, she's really, I think, doing her homework on trying to embody that character. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm happy with the casting.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And then, I mean, do we want to jump to what we see? Like, I can't remember where the flashing happens in the episode exactly, but then we see
the training.
That was the end. Was that the end? Yeah. So you see, sorry, I'm jumping around.
Yeah. So much happened in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see him like kind of learning to channel his powers, and Luke has him on the back. Like, there are so many cool nods in this one. I'm like, it's just a lot.
I even loved when Luke was telling him about Yoda and his leg. He was force picking him up and dropping him down, picking him up. I'm like, so I thought that was pretty cool because he obviously doesn't have his little floating egg, so can't keep up. So that was pretty cool scene.
And I think that well, a little bit forward from that was like the scene that like really convinced me of like. You can talk about if you thought it looked a little off or the voice or whatever, but I was like, that's just Luke Skywalker. Like, if you ask me, and then he starts doing a little sparring type with his lightsaber amongst the trees, and like, it just looked really cool. It was a great visual, and cool to see Grogu there, having not seen a Jedi in who knows how many years for him.
Yeah. And I know we said there's so much going on, but even when we first see them together, Grogu's lifting the frog, then Luke lifts the 12 frogs or a dozen of them, and I mean just seeing their little interaction. And of course seeing when Ahsoka shows up with a gift, and she's like, "How's the training going?" And he's like, "Well, I think he's remembering more than I'm actually teaching." We kind of see some of that later, but yeah, it's like, but you kind of see where he. In the dialogue with Ahsoka, like where you could kind of see why it makes sense, where you see why he failed as a master, I think, and it's kind of building towards that. So, which I like because I'm one of the few that I like The Last Jedi. I know that's a big controversy. So.
I do too.
And so people are like, oh, they're going to retcon it. Oh, I'm like, no, they're not. That's stupid. But I think they're adding little pieces where you can see why it happened. So,
yeah. Yeah, and so when he starts, getting his hops, I call it, like we see when Yoda has to, do his lightsaber battle. So you got the little hopping around. So he's getting his agile nature going. I thought that was cool. And then, gosh, I don't want to jump too far away from other stuff, but the moment where, he pulls out Yoda's lightsaber, I was like, oh my freaking God.
Yeah. That then just the whole choose thing. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. I hate that. That was like I was like, Luke would never do that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think he's trying too much to be like the old school master
Mhm.
rather than learning from his own lessons. And it's like, you've got attachments, you love people. Like, why does everybody have to stick to this old moniker of Jedi leave everything they, aren't
Yeah.
allowed to love and aren't allowed to have attachments? Like, no. Have
And
you
he's
learned
like-
nothing?
I'm wondering if at this time he already has those sacred Jedi texts. Because if he did it, to me, it would make more sense that he's reading into the history and the philosophy of the Jedi and then just becoming so engrossed in it. And then that leads to him just in that cycle of repeating their mistakes, which again will lead to his eventual fall of his school later on. So that's how it would make sense to me. But again,
That's true. Yeah.
I was hoping for something different because Ahsoka was there and she kind of is in the middle. I'm not a Jedi, but I'm not a Sith. And I was like, maybe, no, okay, whatever. Just regular old Jedi it is.
Yeah. And it's like, bro, you left Yoda for your attachments to Han and Leia, and so, but
Yeah.
So then on the Boba Fett side of things, we see Cobb Vanth.
yeah. Well, it started off with him, with the pikes.
Yeah. So we started off with him, and then now we revisit and we see a mysterious character. So this is when I started trying to stay off the internet. If I hadn't got to see the show right away, because when this episode came out, I was actually on Walt's apartment live, and people were talking about it before I got to watch it because I've been working. I didn't get to see it yet. And I was like, no, don't say anything. I'm like, I still have like 20 minutes left in this episode or 15 minutes left in this episode. And I was like, I don't know. And David's like, no, but there's somebody, you have to tell me who it is. I don't know who it is. And I'm like, spoilers.
La, 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 la.
Yeah.
it's Mephisto.
Yeah.
Because I kind of had still held out hope that we'd see Kira or something. So I was like, I don't know, maybe he would know who that is. So then my brain just like goes off on these wild tangents of like, who could he be talking about?
Yeah, that whole scene though. I mean, after Mando leaves to recruit him, and then just the sensing he was coming, and so I mean, I guess we could say it was Cad Bane. if you're not there yet, I was so excited because this is where I was like, all right, when we're talking about on our podcast, I'm like, after episode 1, who do you want to see? I'm like, I want to see Cad Bane and Bosk, and I mean, we got one of them, so and it was awesome.
Yeah. And I love how how it opened with Cobb Vanth. He takes out those 3 pikes, and you're like, you don't mess with this guy. This guy's good. And then Cad Bane
even without the armor,
and,
right?
Yeah. And then Cad Bane comes out and lands a shot on him. Like, if Cobb Vanth was at one level, Cad Bane is on the next tier, and he's even worse. Like,
and I blame the deputy because he was looking at him.
The deputy guy was coming to him.
Yeah, he did. But just see,
he told
Cad
him to
Bane
go
in live
inside.
action. Yeah, watch the people.
Yeah, that whole like silhouette again, the Western, in the middle of town. Very cool. Yeah.
Corey Barton doing the voice again still.
Yeah.
So
that voice, I mean, like even in the Clone Wars just had that Western homage, but then also just this kind of Star Wars kind of alien tone to it that, if you didn't know, if it wasn't a cartoon, it might just keep you up at night wondering who's this guy under the hat.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people seeing it like that, just keep them up at night.
Yeah.
And
his.
Go ahead.
You're going to talk about his mask?
No, I think they did a really good job at portraying him in live action.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they could have done much better.
Yeah. The way his prosthetics move on his face. Yeah, it was very well done. Coming from a cosplay perspective, I always look very closely at those things. I'm like, ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. No, he looked great. He sounded great. I mean, everything was awesome.
Yeah.
And then just on a side note here, we see Cobb Vanth, again, at the very beginning, he points to his belt and he's got the stripes saying, these stripes mean I'm the marshal around here. And I'm wondering if this is kind of how they pivot with the Rangers of the New Republic, because we know that was kind of in flux with the Cara Dune character and what was going to happen there, but we saw her get a medal with those same red and white stripes, and now we see Cobb Vanth with that. So I saw that and I thought maybe there's a connection there, but again, it's just speculation. Yeah,
I'm with you because like what I know that project hasn't been completely scrapped. It's just put on a shelf, and I think with the popularity of his character and even the pilot Carson, I'm like, because I would love to see more of him too. So I mean, just this another ensemble cast, and I think them two together would be great. But I hope that show does come in one way or another. And I would love to see Cobb Vanth in a higher role than a little Marshal of Freetown.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
And speaking of Freetown, you see how they put the dragon skeleton inside the bar there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. And the skull on the sandcrawler.
All right, so episode 7, the finale episode, or chapter 7. So this is where it's all coming to a head. They blew up the cantina, and it meant war.
Rest in peace, Garza.
Was Max Rebo there?
You know what? I after that happened, I rewatched that episode like 3-4 times, and every background I looked around, and he was nowhere in the background.
Oh.
So I'm like, all right, he's alive somewhere. He's out having a smoke or something. I don't know, but
He was on break.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back, and it's gonna be like that scene from Community where Donald Glover walks in with the pizza. Like, what happened here?
Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on, guys?
But yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
So I like how they bring in the Cam Tono once again.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not leaving that ice cream maker alone.
No.
It's everywhere now. Yeah, so they're holed up in the cantina waiting for backup. We see a new battle droid, which I thought was kind of cool, show up. One of the scorpion neck variety, but I don't think we've named it yet. But
yeah, I think, and it was actually in like the Attack of the Clones like concept art. So it's in that book, I believe. So it's cool to see stuff that we talk about callbacks, but it's cool to see stuff that never even made it, but past the sketch. So that was really cool. A lot bigger.
Yeah.
And I really like seeing the kind of the plan layout of how, Black Chrysanthemum goes into the Trandoshan territory, the mods go into another territory, and the Gamorreans go into another. So they really have their bases covered. So they're ready to handle any problem that occurs. And then that kind of implodes on them as Black Chrysanthemum kind of gets taken up for a little bit. Gamorrean guards, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call that the Ocean's 11 breakdown of the plan,
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, why would you put Chrysanthemum where all the Trandoshan's are? By himself.
Yeah.
And then, once they started turning on him, I'm like, oh, this is where we get Bosk. He's going to be leading the but we didn't. But I was like, oh no, they're gonna get rid of after they did the doggy pile. But the way that he was revealed to be still alive was pretty awesome, pretty badass. Just throwing fools around, and I wish we got more Fennec, but she had other things to do.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like she just, we get to see her at the end, but for most of this episode, she's just gone.
Yeah. It's a long speeder ride to Mos Eisley, which with all the big guys there were holding up, but in the Sanctuary, I love the scene with Mando and Boba, like, all right, you can go. There's no way to survive. He's like, no, I told you I'd stay here with you till the end, and just that whole like the honor code. And even though he's not technically, neither of them are technically Mandalorians. He's like, you believe that? He's like, yeah, I do. He's like, all right, this is the way. Let's do it. Love that whole. I just like anything that has to do with like honor and the Respect.
Yeah. Well, and this is the moment too where the mayor's assistant steps in. He's like, I got an idea here. And again, very Godfather, right? Like he's like, I'll respond. And he just starts reading it like in all seriousness, and then he's like, uh-oh. This is not what I thought this was gonna say.
How much? Well, what do you want? Read it. Yeah, that was great. And like just the delivery of it of the lines was perfect.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get the Mando and Boba team up on the jetpacks flying in. That was that was a really great shot. That was really cool to see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we see a random X-Wing show up at Pelly's, thinking she's in trouble.
Yeah.
Hide this stuff! Hide the stuff!
Yeah, that was great.
And my favorite line ever happens in this one, where he pops up and she's giving him love, and R2's like yammering away. And what'd she say? So R2 says his name, and she's like, Grogu? That's a terrible name. Sorry, kid. I'm not calling you that. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like all of us fans are all like, yeah.
And I love that she's the only one that wants to feed him. Nobody else is like, oh, put that down. Don't eat that. Go get him some dung worms.
Yeah, he's like a little baby and, needs to grow big and strong.
Yeah. Missed opportunity for R2 to reunite with the red droid that blew its motivator.
Yeah, totally, right? Like maybe that's a cut scene we'll see later in something, like
I was expecting something. I was
like,
just thinking when you're talking about Pele, I'm like, because in the first episode when Boba's like, when the torture droid is kind of introducing everybody, he's like, we need to get a protocol droid. I was like, well, Pele seems to understand robots and other aliens and ant people, so totally. Maybe he hires her as the translator or something.
Speaks Jawa. I mean,
exactly.
She's like a utility tool of a person here.
Yeah.
She just got it all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a great scene, though. But it's like, did Luke just throw him in the X-Wing? Like, get him out of here. I think there's more to it, but,
Yeah. Well,
he
and
just
I'm
didn't want to go back to Tatooine.
Yeah.
I just hope we see the Yoda's lightsaber. Like somewhere down the line comes back to him. Like there's got to be, I got lots of expectations here.
Yeah.
Well, what else is Luke gonna do with it? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So battles are happening. She rolls up. Is this the scene where they're running from the droid and they crash through a painting, or was that in another one? Anyway, I saw in something later that the painting that they crashed through in one of the scenes, speaking of artwork that shows up again, was the scene from Jabba's palace from
Return of the
Jedi. The Ralph McQuarrie.
That was in the
concept art.
The mods. Mods. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's so many chase scenes.
Yeah. Boba took off for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Pele comes rolling in that episode too. A little droid taxi part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, my dog's barking. Yeah. So then, is that where it cuts back now to Boba riding in with the?
I know. Well, then the people of Freetown get there for his backup.
Oh, that's
and then they're all kind of holed up behind the tank. And it's not looking good. And then Boba leaves. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I was cracking up because like the whole thing depended on like the depending on their survival was if the folks of Freetown show up. And then they did, but it's like there's only like 10 of them in a RV with a cannon. It's like that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah. And now they're up against 3 battle droids. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that Mando like pulls out the dark saber and totally expects to annihilate it with his lightsaber, and it just bounces right off, and he's like, "Oh, what the heck!"
And even and the way he was fighting reminded me of like the old like PS2 video games when you're like Jango Fett or something. And he would use a jetpack just as a jump, not really like flying around it, but just like quick little dive into the corner somewhere. I'm like, oh, that's old video game action. And yeah. Lot going on.
And then that was
Yeah, and
that's kind of a throwback also to the Clone Wars, where Anakin and Ahsoka are trying to show those village people trying to fight the destroyer droids, because the destroyer droids also had a shield like that, and they were showing them that they have to go, like they have to throw the thermal detonator slowly so that it passes through it.
Yeah.
And then Mando tells Boba that like how kinetic weapons are too fast, energy weapons aren't going to pass through. So that was a good little connection there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then comes Rancor.
Yeah, I was like, okay, is this the moment? Yes, I think it is. And then he's coming in riding the Rancor. Which we're like, we knew that was going to happen at some point. It's just you kind of forget after a while that he had mentioned wanting to do that. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's where he went. Ah, I see what you did there.
And we didn't get that training montage, but, it's cool. It was pretty awesome. Seeing that thing, with the newer effects and just looks so good. Everything in this show looked great. I mean, I don't say it didn't look like a TV budget that you would see like on other shows. So yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it has the very like Godzilla King Kong moments, but not the cheesy part. Like there were clearly some nods to that stuff in there, but yeah, it was very well done.
Wasn't the Zillow Beast going through?
Yeah, and it still, it reminded me a little bit of, when we saw Boba Fett in the Christmas special riding, what was that creature called? Anyways, a little bit of a reminiscent of that. And then I was watching somebody else's YouTube thing on this one, and I'd forgotten that Omega rode the baby Rancor in the Bad Batch. I was I see what's happening now. So that was kind of cool too.
One thing I've kind of been thinking is like, is it the same Rancor from the Bad Batch? Or is that not enough time? Or is that the perfect amount of time?
Yeah, I don't know. What is the lifespan of a Rancor?
I don't know.
I don't know. I hope not, because a Rancor in cartoon is okay with the name Munchie or whatever his name was, but in live action, not so much. So
right. Well, and that one wasn't trained for fighting. So,
but I'm the old guy here, so I don't want a live action Munchie Rancor.
Yeah. So then Boba and the Rancor get separated, and it starts just going to town, literally,
like King Kong,
destroying the town.
Because of Cad Bane's flamethrower. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Cad Bane goes in there stone cold, not even no flinching whatsoever. Like, I know how to do this. Yeah.
And no F's given. So. But no, that was cool. And even, I don't know how quick it happened, but you see Mando go to jump and ride the Rancor, and is like, no, get off me. Get off me, little tool. So, but yeah, that whole scene was really cool. And that the second showdown between Cad and Boba, the one where I think we were really looking forward to. I mean, the first one was really good too. The non-actiony, but just the whole intensity, of it, especially knowing their history. For those who know their history, was awesome.
Yeah, and they even, some of their dialogue, even if you didn't know their history, it clearly gives you the picture of it's a complicated history, right? Like love, hate, maybe sometimes but mildly.
So I could call you like an unofficial uncle in a way.
So another showdown, right?
Yeah. And didn't anticipate the gaffy stick. So I like that. I was hoping that the time of the Tuscans was going to come back, and I thought like after Din went and saw the Cal Band, I thought he was going to go to the other Tuscans that they knew, and they were going to come rolling in towards the end with their big army of Tuscans, but that didn't happen. But the callback to the flashbacks I thought was great, because minus episode or chapter 6, like my favorite moment of the season was after Boba made his gaffy stick and they did that big old ceremony at the campfire.
Yeah.
was so
The
amazing.
ceremonial dance around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love that so much, especially knowing Tamora Morrison's heritage and how they tied that in, and so how that came back to defeat Cad Bane from what we think was a death blow, but
Yeah.
I know it's up for discussion.
Yeah, there was like a little light or something blinking as the camera panned away, so who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's got a little droid somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
His
got a
little
little
Seth Green
scepter.
droid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and let's see, any let it slip that, what really happened to the tribe of Tusken. So,
Yeah.
Boba now knows the truth about that.
Yeah.
I'd be fine if this actually was the end for Cad Bane, because the character itself at this point is like 70 something years old. So
yeah,
I think that's like, and he showed enough that even in that age, he took out the Marshal, he held his own against Boba Fett. So I definitely think he went out in a blaze of glory, if you ask me.
No, absolutely. And like I was telling people, like, I can't believe they killed him, or they just introduced him. I'm like, well, introduced him in live action, but I mean, he's been around for, if you watch, the Clone Wars from, as it happened. And I mean, so I'm satisfied with the end. If they go back to certain stories, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him again. But for future Cad Bane, I'm thinking he's dead. So, and I think it was a good death. I mean,
yeah, I think it was fitting, and they retconned the episode that, in a way is now canon, because they showed his metal plate. Boba still had his dented helmet, and that all came from that not deleted scene, the episode that never was released.
Yeah.
The where animatic. Him and Boba. Yeah, the very raw footage of them fighting the first time. Yeah. So that was kind of cool that you saw the metal plate and this idea that some of that stuff that was on the fringes and never officially saw the surface could be canon now. It's kind of cool.
I would have rather gotten that storyline for season 7 than the introduction of Bad Batch, but that's just me. Only because I liked the introduction of the Bad Batch, but I thought in the show they kind of watered them down from how they were introduced. But
yeah,
that could be another discussion though.
And then let's see, and Grogu goes and calms down the Rancor with using the Force. That was really cool to see, especially since he kind of has an interaction with also that with the big droid when you think he's gonna like pull it down or something, but then he just like takes off one little bolt off its leg.
Yeah. Like he could use his Force abilities more on what they would consider the dark side, but he's choosing in a way to just incapacitate things rather than harm them.
Or either that or it's like another shiny thing, like from the like the little nod, the little ball. Ooh.
Yeah. But he definitely seems to have a connection with other species, that that Force sensitivity. So that's cool.
The ones he
saw that
eat.
meme that exactly right. Can't eat a Rancor. I saw the meme that it was like the take on the Hulk, like, oh, the sun's getting real low, big guy, and but one of my friends that I do the Mando podcast with said that particular Force power is like a certain level of training, which is way past where Luke has trained, I guess. So
same thing with the healing. They're kind of like specialized Jedi.
Yeah.
And you normally have to have some kind of sensitivity toward that power to then develop it. So we're seeing a lot of that, with Yoda. Maybe it's a species thing where the innate ability for a lot of that is already there.
They're in tuned even more.
I was trying to think of the last time we ever saw a Force user like have a connection with a beast, and maybe we saw it a few times throughout some other stories, but the main one I think of is Ezra with the Loth Wolves. Yeah.
And
not just them, but
space whales
and
so
Anakin a little bit in the arena scene. And then and some book and comic stuff. But yeah.
Ray with the, what was that thing? Like a centipede or whatever.
Oh
the heck
yeah.
it was.
Mhm.
I was gonna say the was that the Slytherin snake from Chamber of
The
Secrets?
basilisk.
The basilisk, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's kind of cool. And then they're just all snuggled up taking a nap together. I'm like, oh, it's nappy time. Let's see. And then your favorite mayor's assistant and Pelly, make a
Yeah.
love connection.
yeah.
Oh, I thought it was really funny after the Rancor like went to bed. She's like, oh, so no barbecue, huh?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I thought it was funny that the Major Domo has to have this line where he says, "Oh, pleasure to make your acquaintance." When in real life, they've known each other for a long time, the two actors, because him and her were on a show, I believe that was in Canada. And then she had another show that, like a talk show that she invited him on. So like they've known each other for years and they have to pretend like they barely met.
That's cool.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
But nice. Well, I hope we see more of them for sure.
Oh yeah.
That we get the
Oh,
badass
yeah.
Finnick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Finnick ending where she shows her assassin skills.
Yeah. I love how she blasted the family guys that betrayed them first.
Mhm.
Like then the whoosh.
Yeah. She's
That was
definitely
pretty
the
brutal.
enforcer.
That was brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she had to let loose in this one because Boba Fett kept telling her not to kill. And now she's like,
Mhm.
okay, he's not here. So I can take things into my own hands right now.
Yeah. Handle business.
She was in a different area code, so it was okay.
All right, cool. Anything else we want to add that we didn't get to dive into yet?
Just
Cobb
the end
Vanth's
credit
still
scene.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. After credit scene,
Yeah.
we get a
Yeah.
little, and the mod guy is there.
I like how Cobb Vanth's hair just stays perfect in that Bacta tank.
Yeah. I'm jealous. He got a great head of hair, but yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him. I love how it ended with, again, going with a heavy Mando theme with him and Grogu in the speeder. And,
Yeah.
hitting the NOS button again after knocking the glass, but it just shows us that, all right, next Mandalorian. So
Yeah.
Cobb Vanth is going to be RoboCop.
Yeah.
RoboCobb, actually.
RoboCop. That's perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good season. It was fun to watch.
It was. I was a little worried there at the beginning. It was a little bit slow for me. It didn't quite grab me as much as I thought it would. With Boba Fett's history and how much attention he's got from fans over the years, I was like, I don't know if I had my expectations set too high. But I appreciated getting all the answers and things, but it didn't grab me as much as I expected it would at the beginning. But it came through in the end.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird that him and Finn are walking around. Everybody's bowing to him. And he's like, after all that, he's like, I don't know if we're made for this.
Yeah.
You went through a whole season of trying to be the leader, and you're like, I don't know, but it kind of leads into the future of Cobb Vanth and maybe Boba. I think moving on to something even bigger. So we'll see.
Yeah, if I have to speculate, maybe if Cobb Vanth comes out of the Bacta tank, that Mos Espa needs a new mayor now. So maybe that, and he's been shown to be a very lawful and justice-seeking character, so that would really help. As for Boba Fett, it's kind of hard to say what more can he do if he's not a crime lord. I don't see him going back to just being a hired gun.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not gonna let somebody else be his boss now.
I think
Yeah.
my theory is he's gonna want to get revenge for the Tusken Raiders he was a part of, and he's gonna go after the Pikes.
Oh,
And
in a bigger
then
way.
I feel like that's when Red Dawn and Kira are gonna come in because the Pikes are a part of Red Dawn, or however that works. So I don't know. I feel like
I know Tamora Morrison. He says he wants Boba to find Mace Windu if he's still alive. has been what he wants to see. So
That would be
Yeah.
interesting for sure. But we don't even have a confirmation of a season 2, do we?
No, not at this point.
No.
Someone I did hear somewhere else how when Boba Fett gets out of the Bacta tank and he says the droid says, "Oh, you're fully healed," and then Fennec Shan comes in and says, "What about the scars on the inside?" So maybe like that kind of deeper pain that's still lingering in him is what's more explored in season 2, because we got all these scenes, well, just a couple actually, of him looking out the window as a kid back on Kamino. So he explores his past. Maybe he learns more about his father as a Mandalorian, because we know he fought in the Mandalorian Civil War, and maybe he starts buying into this Mando code that he sees Din follow so much.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's what kind of my big theory is. Kind of, I know we got to we're going a little bit longer than you guys were normally, but
this always happens. This is what we do every time.
It's a great conversation. This is what happens when Star Wars fans talk Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
No, but I always, for years, fans were like, "Oh, we want a Boba Fett movie." Then, once Disney bought Star Wars, they wanted to make a Boba Fett anthology or Star Wars story, and then he was supposed to show up in Solo. That's what Lawrence Kasdan said. He was, in the script, but then Lucasfilm's like, "Nah, we got other plans for him." Then Favreau was working on the project. He's like, "Well, I want to do a Boba Fett TV show." Lucasfilm, "No, we got plans for them." Then Mando, so he does Mandalorian, and so the way they came up with Mando was a lot of what I think fans thought Boba Fett was going to be like, the lone gunman kind of style. Then they're like, "Oh, well, the Boba Fett thing didn't work, so you can bring him in the show if you want." So I think that's what they did, but we got so much Boba Fett in Din that I think they had to try to do something different. But I guess so basically what my theory is, I think eventually Boba Fett, and like Danny said about kind of finding out more about his past with Jango, he might actually be the one that leads or brings Mandalore together. Not being a true Mandalorian, but then finding out that maybe he is a true Mandalorian. He's known because even when he was introduced to the Rancor, they're like, "Oh, you go on a ride?" This is like, "I've ridden something bigger." Then rode the Rancor, rode the Bantha. Din couldn't even ride a Blurg at first. Then obviously he couldn't ride the Rancor. Then like the armorer said that one day, somebody's going to ride the Mythosaur. So I think the only way they can kind of get Boba Fett to that high level, like a lot of people were expecting or hoping, is to make him become, unite Mandalore. So that's just one of my geek theories. So,
a deep thread.
a deep
And then on top of that, he's going to take a 23andMe test and he's going to say, "I have a sister?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
where's she right now? Yeah. Yeah. It could go some interesting ways, and I wonder if we're not getting confirmation of a season 2 because we're going to see kind of like the crossover that happened with the Mandalorian in this season, that it's vice versa in the Mandalorian or in one of the other series that's coming, like, do we see more of his story explored?
And I'm sure he'll show up in Mandalorian and the other stuff. And I think the way Disney Plus works, and a lot of these streaming services, you don't have to have a season every year. So it might be something that pops up like a limited season, like every couple of years, depending on where the story is going. I'm sure we'll hear something in May.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to Celebration or just?
Yep. Are you?
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
All right. We'll have to meet up.
Oh, definitely.
We'll be there Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday for Disneyland. And then Wednesdays are kind of like break to recover day. And then, 3 days at Celebration. Then we'll probably head home on Sunday, depending on who's on the list. I'm still like waiting to see like who's going to be there, what's going to be happening.
Hey, Wednesday, the rest day that Obi-Wan.
You're going to be watching the Kenobi premiere from your hotel.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming there'll be some kind of special event
maybe
associated with Celebration in that. I think probably. So we'll see.
We're hoping.
But yeah, exciting. And did you see that the Star Cruiser, the media people that got to check it out early have been posting this last week on their experience, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I got a couple friends that were there, and I'm like, you guys suck. Tell me, tell me about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
planning, hopefully, gonna be there in November, and for my birthday, so that'll be just. I've been watching all this, all the media, and I'm hoping to see more people post about it. As you know, I want to learn really all there is to do. I mean, I saw people getting on their data pads, going on these missions, and I'm trying not to spoil anything for anybody, but I'm trying to talk very in code here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, all the special characters that you could see,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah,
of course,
I
the food.
saw a battle scene that I was really into, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
I saw all the merch I want to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rarely look at videos because I'm like, I want to go in blind. I want to enjoy it, but I'm like, I don't think I'll ever afford to go there. So I'm like, yeah, I want to check them out.
Yeah.
You
We'll
see, and
see.
for me, it's like and this is just the way I am with everything. Like being there in person is just such a different experience. If you ask me, like I know some people like for the Disney parks, they don't want to watch ride throughs. They don't want to hear anything about the ride to experience it in person. But like, for example, when Galaxy's Edge opened up and I saw the lightsaber building experience, I had seen videos of it, but then I went and I did it myself, and it's like doing it for the first time. It was like I never saw one of those videos. So I'm sure I'm gonna get that same feeling if and when I go on the Star Cruiser.
Yeah, that whole lightsaber building. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So we haven't been to Galaxy's Edge yet either. So this will be our first time going
Nice.
there. So May's going to be a busy month.
Yeah, I told Sean I'll try to make it down because I'm planning on going on Wednesday, but maybe I'll try to get a few days early.
Cool. Yeah.
Try all
Yeah, I'm
those
excited.
special drinks. I got the Tatooine Sunset that was there last time. That was really good. This was at Ronto Roasters. I actually have not been to Oga's Cantina yet, but oh boy. But
Yeah.
Ronto Wraps, Tatooine Sunsets. What's the other one they have there? They have the Melly Run Juice. That's something else I want to try, man.
I've had the Moose
Star.
Punch.
Oh yeah. Huh?
That was really good. I've had a few drinks at Oga's. They're pretty tart. I like tiki drinks, and those are even tartar than. But
Blue
yeah,
milk,
like the
green milk, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we're going for 3 days. Hopefully we can hit everything in that 3-day span with the reservation system and stuff. So
Yeah.
hopefully.
If not, I'll just steal somebody's pass and pretend to be them.
Yeah, right.
Let me scan yours really quick. Yeah.
Hop the
Y'all
wall.
cosplaying for the celebration?
Yes. Hopefully we get our newest ones done in time. We'll see.
Yeah.
I've been working on my Mandalorian forever. So hopefully it'll be done in time. But the other two, of course. And then we've got our Disney bounding and stuff to plan out for Disney too. So it's gonna be great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and breaking down the Book of Boba Fett. You want to
thanks for
tell
the invite.
everybody where to find you on social media and plug your other podcasts?
Sure, I'll let Danny go first this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's pretty simple. I'm just on Instagram at Danny Fandoms.
Cool. And I do a couple podcasts. So my Disney one's Disney Universe podcast, and it's we're kind of bumping up our YouTube, so it's at DUTV. And I also do the Mando Show podcast where we talk about everything Mandalorian themed and Star Wars. So
Very cool.
That's
And
the
you have a
reason.
beer one, which I catch a glimpse of every so often. That's kind of fun.
the beer one?
Yeah.
So yeah, I also do a craft beer podcast here in Northern California called Fresh Shops Podcast. And we even tied it into our last Disney trip where we did the happiest brews on earth breweries around the Disneyland Resort. So, and we got more to do next time. So
Super fun. All right. And Jade, where do we find you?
I don't really go on social
I
media
know.
anymore.
I mean, she's there if you want to. You can find me on Amberaton Cosplay on Instagram and Facebook. And hopefully more frequently again on Walt's Apartment Podcast now that my life has settled into a little bit of a routine again. But again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again. May the force be with you.